Hello, the Internet. My name's Laura, and this is The Law of the Prince Charming, Chapter 9.2. Tabitha follows Wild Rose through the busy streets toward their destination. Her eyes rove over the buildings and people as they weave their way down the road. They pass a shop with artifact weapons hanging in the window, next door to a shop that sells ingredients for spells. There's a store displaying artifact clothing, and even a bakery with sugary treats gracing the window. Wild Rose walks slowly enough for Tabitha to gawk at everything. The crowd in front of them shifts abruptly. Tabitha realizes why a moment later when she sees a fairy walking down the street. People scatter so that the fairy never has to slow or change direction on the crowded street. Even the flowing ends of the clothing he wears is given a wide berth. "Why is there a fairy here?" Tabitha asks. "Prism is the single largest repository for magic in all the kingdoms," Wild Rose says tightly, and the Fae are always interested in magic. Merchants along the street continue to call out their wares, trying to catch the fairy's attention. He continues on his path, with no attention paid to anything around him. Then he turns and looks straight at Tabitha. His yellow eyes glitter for a moment. Many of the people on the street turn to follow his attention. Tabitha stares back, not willing to let herself look away like last time. A slight smile touches the fairy's lips as he walks by. The fairy's eyes are so unsettling. Wild Rose looks after the fairy for just a moment. "Let's go." He leads them over a few streets to a shop with a sign that reads, "The Mythic Cloud." The windows facing the street have remnants on display, each of them glows softly. "Unicorn horn," Tabitha reads off one of the cards next to a pillow holding a spiraled horn gleaming silver. "Laws of purification, mercy, and healing." "Best remnant shop in the city." Wild Rose opens the door and walks inside. There's a buzzing noise as each of them passes the threshold. Inside are rows of cases filled with remnants, along with several people perusing the aisles. A man sits behind a case at the far back of the store, where he has a perfect view of the door. His head rests heavily on his hands, and his eyes are half closed, though Tabitha can see him watching her from beneath the lids. The case he is leaning on contains gems in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. Behind him are shelves that hold even more remnants. Wild Rose walks straight down the center aisle to the counter. The man stands, though his body remains bowed. His eyes shift to Tabitha. "I'm the proprietor of the Mythic Cloud," he says with a voice that wanders aimlessly. "It's an honor to have royalty in my shop." Tabitha bows, not realizing her aura of royalty had been noticeable. "I am the Prince of Redstone." "I have several remnants to trade in, and I need a few things," Wild Rose says. He pulls open his shoulder bag. The proprietor's gaze turns to Wild Rose as he sets a number of remnants on the counter. The proprietor picks up one of the remnants and examines it from all sides. He runs his finger over a piece of paper on a stack beside him. The name of the remnant appears, as well as a number. He chooses another remnant and does the same, adding another line beneath the first. He slowly goes through everything Wild Rose pulls out. "No demon eyes?" the proprietor asks once he is finished. "No," the huntsman says. "Pity." He turns to Tabitha. "And you wouldn't be interested in parting with a few drops of blood, would you?" Tabitha looks at him curiously, but Wild Rose clears his throat and shakes his head. "It doesn't hurt to ask," the proprietor says slowly. He pushes the card to Wild Rose. "Is this acceptable?" Wild Rose reads the numbers over quickly and agrees. The proprietor takes each of the remnants and puts them into a box. He rips the paper in half, and each turns into a copy of the original paper. He hands one to Wild Rose and sets the other in the box before setting the box on the floor out of sight. "What do you need today?" the proprietor asks. "Which vine?" "Which vine? Row 2, section B, middle shelf." "And Thunderbird?" "Thunderbird, row 1, section A, top shelf." "Also, do you have any stone ram?" The proprietor's eyes glaze over for a moment. "Stone ram, row 5, section H, at the bottom. Not common, but not in demand. You wouldn't rather have black bull?" "Yes." Wild Rose motions Tabitha toward the shelves. The huntsman peels off down another row. "Rose!" a voice calls out. Rose turns as two young men approach, both wearing the colored tunics of a storyteller. The taller one has sandy brown hair and is dressed in red, while the other has short black hair and wears green. "Good to see you two," Wild Rose greets them. "Is Cobalt here too?" "No, he's still with the tail," the man in red says. "We came to pick up a few things." "Along with some Kieran arrows. I'm getting low. Are you going to be in town for long?" the man in green asks. "Kieran, row 4, section C, middle shelf." The proprietor's voice drifts to them. "Just long enough to get our next assignment," Wild Rose says. "But where are my manners? This is the Prince of Redstone." "A prince?" the man in red asks, looking Tabitha over as if sizing her up. We're pleased to meet you, the man in green jumps in. I'm the Pine Archer, and this is the Crimson Swift. A pleasure to meet you, Tabitha bows. You know, I really am going to have to teach you to make these arrows sometimes. There's no reason you can't, Wildrose says. I appreciate the confidence, but I would prefer you make them, the Pine Archer says. He moves over to the next row and picks up a case from off the shelf. Inside is a single horn, but it has multiple points growing out of it. Will you still be here tomorrow, Wildrose asks. We'll be leaving in the morning. Plenty of time, then. I'll let the proprietor know that you're taking this. Thanks again. The archer bows his head briefly to Wildrose and Tabitha. We'll see you later. The Crimson Swift follows his teammate. Those are the other two members of Cobalt's team, Wildrose says. The summoner with the tattoos? Tabitha asks. Yes. Wildrose bends down and pulls out a case. Inside lays the familiar-looking curled horn of a stone ram. It's weird to call it rare, Tabitha says. We have so many of them at home. I'm going to pay for all this. I'll be back in a minute. Tabitha watches him go for a moment before she scans the shelves around her. She reads the cards accompanying the remnants to see what laws they contain. She touches the hilt of her sword and allows the glows to rise up in her surroundings. She finds a remnant that says it has the law of powerful charge. She examines the one swirling inside her and then finds it within the steady glow of the remnant in front of her. Wildrose finishes with the proprietor, and the huntsman joins him as he makes his way back. Find anything interesting? Just looking at the laws, Tabitha says. I hadn't realized you'd gotten that far, Wildrose says. I only can when I touch my sword. I didn't realize what it was at first. Well, good. Maybe we'll just have to keep you around a bit longer. He smiles warmly. Tabitha looks at the curve of his lips, and her thoughts drift back to the kiss they had shared under the tree. The memory fills her with a warm, gentle feeling. But I noticed in the remnant the law doesn't move much, but inside me it's constantly swirling around. Laws and mythics and their remnants are firm and unchanging. Humans are a bit different. The laws in us can be changed and be manipulated. Tabitha can see the glow swirling around Wildrose. So while she has a vague feeling what some of them could be, she doubts her ability to label any of them. I'll hold on to the stone ram for a bit, he continues. You don't want to have absorbed too much magic before you're good at masking it. Huntsman has a ton of remnants, Tabitha says, and he's been doing it for years, the huntsman replies. Tabitha reaches for the 3 remnants she has, swirling comfortably inside her. She has no idea how much magic it is compared to what's normal. And now with that shopping out of the way, it's time to go to the guild, Wildrose says.